Welcome to Say More, the podcast where we expand the conversation around what it means to be human. I'm Aundi Spray, and I'm here with my co-host, Emily Lawyer, licensed professional counselor. We're answering your real questions, and while we're at it, creating a community where we can grow together and learn how to connect more to self in order to connect more to others and more to God. Hi.
Hello.
We are talking about self-compassion today.
What's everybody's reaction when you hear that word?
Well, I don't know, but I would like to ask you some questions about self-compassion's sexy cousin, self-care. Okay. They're close, but not exactly the same, right? And, you know, self-care is a $6 billion a year industry.
Oh, it gets way more attention than self-compassion.
I made up that number. Statistics mean nothing to me.
No,
but it seems like it gets
does.
a lot of,
Yes.
right? At least it's the modern interpretation.
Yes. Way more marketable.
Way more marketable. Of course, we can sell you things about it. But it is related. It is the sexy cousin of self-compassion. So I want to ask you,
okay,
licensed professional counselor.
Okay.
I'm gonna throw out some self-care ideas.
Okay.
And I want you to rank them for us as how effective they are.
Oh, okay. And I can just use sort of my own definition
Your
of
own
effectiveness.
definition. And I think part of our problem is there is no real definition for self-care. So it can mean anything to me. I can call anything I want self-care. It might be totally different for somebody else. And I dare say it runs the razor's edge of self-destruction sometimes.
It does.
But if I call it self-care, which is why we need your therapeutic ranking as to...
Based on what I've seen in my hours and hours and hours of observation of human behavior, consequences to human behavior...
You feel free to draw on personal as well. But yes, what you've seen in all your many clinical hours, how would you rank this as a self-care medium?
Mode, yes. Medium.
Mode. Okay. I'm going to start with some easy ones.
Great.
Taking a walk.
Oh, 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10.
Way up there.
Helps you what? Regulate?
Anytime we do something repetitively, it is really good for the brain. You get connection to nature, which we know regulates the nervous system. Bonus points if you're doing a walk and talk, if you're connecting with a friend or talking to somebody on the phone. Actually, let's go 9.8 out of 10. Let's raise the score there.
Did I accidentally start with the best one? I might have.
That's a good one.
Number 2, self-care, listening to a podcast. I'm going to guess it depends on which podcast.
Depends on which podcast.
Are you being radicalized to hate people? Maybe not great self-care. I don't know.
It would feel good in the moment.
Yeah.
Let's say 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10.
6 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number 3, self-care. Because as much as we talk about, listen to a podcast, take a walk, what we're all doing is really rotting. At least that's my preferred self-care mode. Talk to me. And by rotting, I mean...
You mean downtime.
I mean, sure. Okay. But again, this is where it runs that razor's edge,
That
right?
is true.
So maybe scrolling, binge watching TV.
Scrolling.
These can be separate answers.
Those would have to be separate. Okay.
Scrolling. Let's start with scrolling.
Scrolling, I'm going to say, 4 out of 10.
Okay.
Because it could get away from you so quickly.
And maybe almost always does.
Probably so. Probably, yeah. Big tech wants us to stay on our phones as long as possible. And then you said binge watching a show.
Yeah,
I'm going to rate that one higher. I'm going to say 6 out of 10.
I think where we get into danger is when it turns into the rot.
Yes.
You know, where it's an extended. Again, this is where it's like, well, it might have been self-care 4 hours ago.
Right.
And now we're tiptoeing in
4 hours ago.
Self-destruction.
Key point there. If I have completely lost track of time, if I can't remember the last time I took a shower, if I can't remember the last time I ate something with fiber in it, if I can't remember the last time that I opened the curtains to my window, We're down to 1 out of 10.
I mean, both of us have already outed ourselves in this way, in that we love TV.
We do.
I used to be very much teased by my siblings and friends growing up. One time, my sister's friend said I had a symbiotic relationship with the couch, which, though hurtful, was a real solid burn that I'm thinking about it, 20 years later or 30 years later, maybe. So we've already outed ourselves, but that's one that it's like, because you come home from a long day and you're like, what do I really want to do? I don't really want to take a walk. No. I want to look at a screen.
Well, okay. And if we're getting into the neuroscience of it, if you say, okay, what are the things that I need sort of on my plate for healthy brain activity? Downtime is a slice of the pie. If you just say, I never get to have any downtime, that can be equally as destructive.
Okay, I'm going to throw out number 4, which is going to seem similar, but is not the same. Taking a nap.
9 out of 10.
Okay. So a nap is,
Sleep is so good for us.
Okay.
So I'm going to say 9 out of 10. We'll go even higher if you're taking a nap after you have gone for a walk.
If I've done both in the day, then I'm really achieving something.
That's right.
You and I were talking the other day, and I don't even remember now exactly what it was, but it had really something stressful was like really pulling on me. I had a couple of uncomfortable phone calls or something like that. And you were like, did you get a nap? It had been raining all day. No, you said, did you get a walk? You said, did you get a walk in? And I said, no, but I did take a nap with a jar of jelly beans. And you were like, excellent work. Excellent work.
Now that you say that.
And by the way, it wasn't really a jar. It was a tub, because my self-care was to buy the tub of Starburst jelly beans at Costco. I didn't need that. No one else in my family even likes them.
They're the best.
But they're the best. Okay, number 5, big spending as self-care.
Oh, boy.
I guess spending on what is dealer's choice.
I feel like I've really been put in the hot seat. Listen, this is where we put in the caveat of the professional opinion given on Say More is not to be taken as professional counseling advice.
Okay.
Does not reflect the
organization.
The organization or the thoughts.
These views are for the speaker entirely on their own.
The mental health community at large. I'm going to say 5 out of 10.
Okay.
Because there is benefit to it, and being able to live with a little more flexibility in how you steward your money can be a helpful thing. If I never allow myself to spend, that's on one end of the spectrum. If I am unable to get through the day without add to cart and 10 Amazon boxes on my front porch, that's another end of the spectrum. So I'm going to say 5 out of 10.
5 out of 10. Could go either way. Number 6, massage therapy. As self-care.
As self-care. Okay. Personal disclosure. As part of my own care for myself in my work, I get monthly massages. And you and I have joked before that we were going to come up with a segment called Tales from the Massage Table.
Yes, because I too love a massage. Some people don't like them. I really like them.
At things that have surprised us.
Yes.
I.e., usually when I get a massage, my jaw starts to chatter like a ventriloquist dummy.
That's where you store all your...
I still can't figure out exactly what's going on. It is probably indicative of, I don't know, something that's, been stored or held in my body, and it's just happening right there in real time. But you also have had something like that happen.
Yeah, I was getting
named in our trauma episode. And
right. When I was getting a massage and guinea pigs, like it came out of me like a ghost. But no, I had another time I was getting a massage, and what did she say? She whispered something in my ear. She was like working on a spot in my back, and she just whispered in my ear and said, I guess I had made a noise. And she was like, it's going to be okay. She was like, this girl's going through it.
You're getting counseling.
This girl is in the middle of something. it's going to be okay. And I just went, right. No, of course. Of course it's going to be okay.
So I'll say 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. Okay. Number 7, I think we're on. Eating your feelings. Listen, I don't know what flavor your feelings are. They might be ice cream flavored. My feelings are fast food flavored. Okay?
Oh, those
and
are.
I know that everybody's going to be like, eating healthy is actually great self-care. But I'm just, eating your feelings.
Yes. Well, it's the same with binge watching TV or scrolling on your phone. There is feel-good responses. There's dopamine that happens when we eat food. It's a gift. That is a gift that we have been given by a creative God, that food brings joy and tastes good. And
also, we're walking that line.
If I'm using it for a purpose that maybe it wasn't fully intended, or
pure escapism.
Escapism, numbing. So I don't know.
Numbing, yes.
That's a hard one.
Self-care, the self-care to numbing pipeline is real slippery.
Real slippery. I'm going to have to rate that one honestly pretty high. I'm going to go 7 out of 10. Maybe 7.5.
7.5 out of 10 eating your feelings. You heard it here, folks.
Well, okay, hang on. Can I take that back?
Oh, hold on.
Because you named it as eating your feelings.
That's what I said.
Okay, well then way down. Let's go 3 out of 10.
Okay, she's hedging. Okay. Eating your feelings is a 3, but just eating for joy is a 7.5?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, that's a real gray area.
I'll let everybody decide.
¿Por qué no los dos? Just saying. Okay. Number 8, I think, I'm going to call this going ghost mode. And by that, I mean sort of ignoring text, sort of pulling away from social group.
Okay, I feel pretty solid about this one.
Okay.
1 out of 10.
Okay.
And I only give it a 1 instead of a 0 because in the moment it does hit.
It does hit sometimes.
It does help. I do feel a little bit better. I feel a little bit safer. Boy, is there a cost to that, though.
Oof,
so I'm going to put that one way down on the scale.
I got overwhelmed and have been ignoring. There's just too many ways to message people now.
Yes.
There's, texting and email and DMs on social media and whatever. And I have been ignoring all my Instagram DMs, and I'm now currently doing an apology tour. And I'll be like, thank you for sending me this 2 months ago. It was really funny, and I appreciate that you thought of me. So maybe you're listening and you've gotten one of those because I've sent about 15 of them.
Okay, so that, the apology tour, that type of ownership, 10 out of 10.
Okay.
That's also self-care.
It's okay. All right. Yeah. I had to own up to it, but it was just like, I just got overwhelmed and I just haven't looked at this because it was too many things.
Okay.
Too many ding dongs.
Yeah.
Like notifications, alerts, too many.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to end strong, asking for help as self-care.
Well, we're going to get into that in the episode today.
Okay.
So let's weigh that one carefully. I'm going to say 8 out of 10, and here's why.
I expected it higher.
Well, it's such an incredible practice and something that we want to move towards. And it feels really scary, and it feels really vulnerable, and it feels really risky. So for that reason, I can't put it at 10 out of 10 because that would mean that, it's easy to do, and it's not.
So we didn't get any 10 out of 10s.
Well, did I,
I don't think
you owning your ghosting.
Well, that really wasn't what I was asking you about. All right. That felt like an opportunity for you to remind us about our responsibility.
Well, and also to compliment you.
Thank you.
Okay.
We're going to see, though. We'll see after the episode concludes if we
can come up with a 10 out of 10.
If self-compassion maybe gets us to a 10 out of 10.
I accept that challenge.
All right, let's check it out after our question of the week. All right, actually, curveball. Before I read our question of the week, I want to address the audience. And I want to say I get asked this sometimes, and people will say, are these real questions? Are you and Emily just kind of making up questions to suit a topic? And the answer to that is no. These are actually real questions. And so I wanted to sort of share a reminder, or maybe this is the first time you're hearing this, of how you can ask questions. Maybe as you're listening, you're like, oh, but what about this? But what about that? Sometimes these are questions we are getting from conversations we're having with people. So sometimes just in our daily lives, in our friendships, in our families, we are hearing questions and you go, oh, that would be a really good thing to address on the show. And sometimes people have texted us.
Yes.
Or reached out to us via email. We've actually spoken a couple times, and people will write in questions at an event that we're speaking at.
Yes.
And we're saving them, and we're going through them, and we're tying them into stuff to talk about. You will also notice sometimes we have people record questions. Those are usually their individual questions. I think with the exception of one time, maybe these are all the actual people who asked those questions were brave enough to record themselves asking it, which is incredible, and we appreciate that. If you have a question, you don't actually have to record yourself.
No.
I won't make you do that.
No.
I love when people are willing to do that, because I think it breaks up our talking, right? Even if it's 10 seconds of someone else's voice, that's great. But there are ways to reach out. So I just want to encourage you, if you're listening and have a question, you can, we're trying to do more on social media. I promise I won't ghost your DMs. Okay. That's just my personal account. But you can send a DM. We have an email address, saymoreabout@gmail.com. We will check that, and you can type in a question. We actually, if you look in the show notes of this very episode you're listening to, there's a little link to something called a bio site. And there's a space there that you can record a question or just straight up email and ask a question. So all kinds of opportunities for you to have your questions heard. And I just wanted to say, these are real questions. People who, like you, are listeners or friends or strangers. We have some from people we don't know at all reaching out. And we're so glad that you're here. So I'm going to go ahead and read our question of the week. This one came in through a text, I guess, something like that, or an email. I don't remember exactly, but it's one that I'm going to read. And so just remember, you don't have to do the audio. So if that's holding you back, unless you're a close personal friend of mine, I might make do it. Everyone else, you're off the hook. Okay. Here we go. Our question of the week. Oh, wait. We also have YouTube. I just saw a note on my page.
That's new.
That's new. So you can add a comment on YouTube. So lots of ways.
Trying to make it as easy as possible.
For you. Okay. Sorry. Here we go. Question of the week. Sometimes when I find myself thinking of all the losses I've experienced, which that's a heavy opening statement right there. We could pause for a second. When I find myself thinking of all the losses I've experienced, I know that God grieves with us and doesn't want those things to happen. But I also sometimes don't know how to deal with that sort of thing when I'm in it. I know the churchy answers, but can you say more about what to do in the midst of that kind of loss? Okay, lots going on in this question.
Lots going on in that question. And we say this often, but it bears repeating to those of you who are submitting these questions. Thank you again for your vulnerability. I mean, I hear so many things sort of in between the lines in that question. Like I hear that grief is the price we pay for love, or grief is the price we pay for being in relationship. I hear sometimes the pain of loss is so big that I'm left feeling helpless or confused about what to do with it. And if you're listening right now, when you heard that question, maybe it's really resonating with you. Maybe you have experienced a loss that big, so big that your world doesn't make sense anymore. Or maybe you've experienced a loss so big that your faith doesn't make sense anymore, or that you feel paralyzed in how to move forward. Or, maybe as you're listening to that question, you're saying, well, hang on, Emily. I think I do know what I need when I'm experiencing loss. I just need to keep putting one foot in front of the other. Or maybe you are part of the Say More community and you've been practicing along with us, and you're finding yourself thinking, no, I know. When I'm experiencing loss, I'm supposed to feel my feelings.
Yeah.
Or I need to connect to safe relationship. Yes to all those things. Wonderful. Yes to all those things. And something in addition that we're going to talk about today. And I'm going to pause for a second because our topic today is a little bit difficult to take in. It's very tender, especially if you're listening while you're already maybe in a little bit of an anxious state. Maybe you're driving around, you've got things to do. Maybe you've had a rushed day or a rushed week. So just collectively, I'm going to invite us to all just pause for a second. And we're all just going to take a long, slow, deep breath in all together. We're going to hold it for a second. And then we're going to take a long, slow breath out. We're just going to settle ourselves a little bit first. Okay, are you ready for the key component that we are adding in today?
All right, let's hear it.
Is self-compassion.
Okay.
Not practicing self-compassion robs us of one of our most powerful coping mechanisms in dealing with life's difficulties.
We already sort of expressed that self-care sort of has no definition. Mm-hmm. It can be whatever we want it to be. Mm-hmm. Is there something more concrete for self-compassion? What are we talking about?
Yeah, let's take a few minutes to explore that. So I'm going to draw heavily from some research conducted by a woman named Dr. Kristin Neff. She actually researches self-compassion. She was actually the first in her field to do that. And I use her work a lot in my counseling practice. I've also linked one of her books in the show notes. So if you're, people listening, if you're interested in learning more. So we're going to use her very empirical data, her operational measures, to define self-compassion as having 3 components. First component to self-compassion is self-kindness.
Okay.
Second component in self-compassion is a recognition of common humanity. So self-kindness, a recognition of common humanity.
Okay.
And then the third component is mindfulness.
Okay,
let's start with self-kindness.
Yeah, go for it.
You might have heard that and said, no problem, Emily, I got this one. I know what self-kindness is. Duh. It's relating to myself kindly as opposed to harshly or harsh self-judgment. Good job. Let's keep going a little further. What happens for you when I say that self-kindness also includes embracing flaws? Notice I didn't say excusing. I did say embracing.
Like your own flaws?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Uh-huh. Something stirs a little different when we add that part in. What if we add in that self-kindness includes active soothing? It warmly asks, what can I do to help? What can I do to support you? Self-kindness is warm support. Okay, maybe now I'm starting to get a little squirmy, Emily. I don't need warm support. I'll do it by myself. Thank you very much. So I'm going to do what therapists usually do, and I'm going to keep poking at it. I'm going to keep messing with it. Let's move on to exploring the common humanity piece.
Okay.
Self-compassion also includes moving towards common humanity versus isolation. And here's kind of what that looks like. Moving towards common humanity is a lot of what we do in this show. It is a key tenet. When you and I sat down and said, what are we hoping to cultivate? We said that is a key. We want people to know you're not alone. This is a common human experience. When we're in pain, we automatically start to think, I'm the only one.
Yeah, that's so true.
I'm looking around at everybody else living their lives, and they all seem to be just fine. So this pain that I'm experiencing is abnormal. Something has gone wrong. I'm defective. Something is wrong with me. Or sometimes it's a pain that's resulting from something that I have done. And then I start thinking not only what I'm feeling is abnormal, but I'm defective. I'm abnormal. I'm flawed. And it happens for all of us. We all do it. It's irrational, but we all do it. The problem with that is if we're staying in a place of I'm the only one or I'm in isolation in this, it actually makes us feel worse. about our separation when, in fact, our imperfection is precisely what connects us to other people. So when I'm in that place of I'm alone, I want to withdraw.
Yeah.
When in reality, what happens when somebody else names their imperfection to you? You want to move closer, right? Like there's a sense of common humanity or shared humanity in that. And so when I'm in that isolation mindset, it registers in my body as danger. We're not designed to be alone. Again, for those of us who follow Jesus, this is further proof of the breathtaking way that Scripture meets up with science, because we're programmed to respond to secure attachment. Remember from our last episode, self-compassion, self-kindness, practicing common humanity, it taps into all those attachment needs, those needs of being safe, seen, and self and secure. God has created us to be relational. So even if just my mindset is I'm alone, there are very real chemical reactions that are going to take place in my body as a result of that danger signal. So instead of assuming I'm defective and therefore in this all alone, self-compassion asks, how am I the same as others? Self-compassion names all humans are imperfect, and we are living a shared human experience. It's not abnormal. Life goes wrong for all of us. We're in this together. So self-kindness, common humanity, and then the last part, mindfulness, meaning just simply acknowledging or validating, this is hard. Loss is hard. It hurts. My pain hurts. Just that type of mindfulness or acknowledgement can allow us to be more mindful in sort of the here and now or present moment, and to be able to practice self-compassion. So it's practicing acceptance of the reality in the present moment, practicing non-judgmental awareness of my pain in the present moment. Self-compassion just names it outright. This is a moment of suffering. I'm having a really hard time right now, and it's really painful for me to feel this right now, and suffering is a part of life. And just like it feels easier to open up to a friend when we know that there's going to be support there, we know there's going to be kindness there, we know there's going to be acceptance there, we can be more willing to open up to our own pain when we can trust that it's going to be held with that same type of kind awareness. Now, you might be thinking as you're hearing me say all this, well, okay, Emily, I'm a little confused. Why do I need to acknowledge that I'm suffering? I know when I'm suffering. I can feel it. Yes, it sounds a little obvious to notice your pain, but this is where a shame reflex kicks in. We start to hurt. The story comes up about my pain. I'm alone. I'm defective. I shouldn't be feeling this. And then all my attention goes to the shame instead of acknowledging my pain.
Okay.
So and I can't practice self-compassion if I can't pay attention to the suffering. The shame response is so fast and so strong that it demands pay attention to me and that shame story instead. And then we're not able to offer care to the emotional or the physical or the mental suffering in the present moment. And that is step one when it comes to, processing something. I have to acknowledge this hurts. If I push it away or try to jump ahead or stop it, it's only going to get bigger and stronger and stick around longer. And as we often say in this episode, there's also purpose in our pain. So we don't want to skip out on it because it creates resilience and maturity and strength for the future. And so self-compassion with self-kindness, common humanity, recognizing common humanity and mindfulness, that is vital for transforming our pain in that way.
As you're talking, I'm thinking this sounds like grace.
Yeah.
And if you're in faith communities where grace gets talked about,
Yes.
is self-compassion the same as grace?
Yeah, and there is definitely some overlap because they both have elements.
That's a term you're going to hear more often,
especially if you're in faith
churches and that kind of thing. Okay.
Right. And both have elements of kindness.
Okay.
Both have elements of acceptance. Both are rooted in love. I think where I might kind of differentiate a little bit, self-compassion is an active emotional practice that I exercise while I'm in suffering. It involves some agency. I think grace as more of a gift that I receive.
Okay. So I'm doing a little bit more in terms of my self-compassion rather than accepting
it.
Grace.
Now, I will say, I think the more I can receive grace, the more I can exercise self-compassion. I can't give myself something that I haven't received from somebody else first. And as a Jesus follower, I personally believe that I have the most access to the most grace and therefore the most capacity to utilize self-compassion. Sadly, sometimes Christians are often known for something else. And if you need a primer on that, go listen to our shame episodes. But I think as far as having access to that grace to inform self-compassion, there is something there.
Okay, so what gets in the way of accessing self-compassion?
Yes, and there must be some sort of hurdle or challenge. Yeah. Otherwise, we would all be doing this very easily and moving through our pain.
Right, because when you describe it, it sounds simple, but obviously we're not living in that. So,
obviously not.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this, like we mentioned, defaulting to a place of, well, am I even the only one who struggles with accessing self-compassion? Am I the only one who this is hard, for? No. And I'm gonna list several. And
you're gonna name people? You're gonna list several. Several what?
I'm gonna list several hurdles, several challenges.
Okay, not people who are struggling with self-compassion.
No.
Okay.
And although I am gonna out myself, I'm gonna be one of the ones that we're gonna talk about. So okay, let's go ahead even together. Let's jump in and start to practice the common humanity piece.
Okay.
Just in these hurdles and challenges that we're going to name together. Biggest block that I see to self-compassion is the belief that if I use self-compassion, it's going to get in the way of my productivity.
Okay.
That it's going to undermine my motivation or that I'm going to be lazy.
Like in life?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Or I won't be able to reach my goals. If I
slow down enough to have self-compassion.
If I practice self-compassion, if I give myself kindness when I have made a mistake. Or if I exercise, I'm not the only one feeling this way, then I'm not going to be able to motivate myself to do something different. And again, that's the shame reflex kicking in.
Sure.
Yes. Both empirical and my own anecdotal research prove that to be a wildly false belief. Shame doesn't operate, though, in ration. Shame wants to tell us that I need self-criticism to change. Or shame says I need perfectionism to motivate myself to change. Research shows us the complete opposite. And again, it makes sense because, it taps into when I'm shaming myself or when I'm using self-criticism to try to motivate myself. If that taps into the threat response, then I'm going to shut down. I'm not going to be able to do my best thinking. And so I'm probably not going to be able to change in the way that I want to. Sometimes even after we've done that over and over and over again, that self-criticism, we get to the point of, well, I'm not even going to try anymore because I know I'm going to fail. And that's too painful. And I get it. I can throw research out all day long, but we don't believe it because instead we trust that shaming or criticizing ourselves into motivation works better because that's what we all use.
I'm used to that.
I'm used to it
as a tactic. So that must be what we're supposed to do. That must be
what we're supposed to do, and that must be what works. And we even get a little bit of data that it does work temporarily.
Okay.
Right? Shaming myself or using that harsh judgment or self-criticism, it helps me feel a little bit of a sense of control in the moment. And temporarily, I might be able to access some motivation. I'm used to it. It's predictable. It's just that it only works short term.
Yeah.
And it's going to reinforce that I need to shame myself into doing something different pathway in my brain, which is just shooting myself in the foot when it comes to that, because ultimately it's going to lead me to a place of frustration or hopelessness. There's just such an outsized cost to that. So I think the fear of losing motivation is probably the most common one that I hear. Also, to our self-kindness definition earlier, sometimes what gets in the way is we just have difficulty accepting warm support. You and I attended a funeral together recently for someone we both know. And I was very emotional the whole time.
Yeah.
And you were incredibly supportive and compassionate. And I admitted to you the next morning that I woke up with a vulnerability hangover.
Yeah.
Kind of like a grief walk of shame. And I said, I realize this will probably always be a little bit of a default for me. I'm an eldest daughter, and I'm not supposed to be the one receiving or accepting support.
Right.
So there's a little bit of shame for me in that, because my younger self believed I'm supposed to be the one giving support. I'm supposed to be the one offering support.
I can't cry on any shoulders. I'm the shoulder you cry on.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Now, I'm happy to report that hangover was extremely short-lived, and I was able to pivot into self-compassion pretty quickly. But, those baked-in core beliefs from childhood, they can definitely get in the way of being able to utilize self-compassion. Another shade of that one is sometimes people say, well, if I use self-compassion, it means that I'm wallowing in self-pity.
I do hear that kind of language a lot.
Or I'm wallowing in self-indulgence.
Yeah.
If I take a self-compassionate approach to my grief, I'm just going to be in my grief forever. It's never going to end.
Like move on.
I'm never going to move on.
Okay.
And I got things that I need to do. That's very common. Some people sometimes will say, well, if I use self-compassion, I'm making excuses, or I'm playing the victim. I'm skipping out on my responsibility somehow, or that it's going to lead to pride. If I use self-compassion, I'm going to become prideful, and I won't be able to own what's mine to own. Again, we're kind of going back to the more I can utilize actual self-compassion from a completely physiological standpoint, meaning my nervous system, my brain, my body, the more I'm setting myself up to actually own what's mine to own. I'm going to be able more easily to apologize, or more easily able to cry, or more able to be vulnerable, or more able to humbly lean on someone else for support. All of that is the complete opposite of pride and irresponsibility. And again, I get it, because these are all things that shame tells us to believe. When we're kind of looking at the real nuts and bolts of it, it doesn't hold water. All right, we're going to throw in one more for good measure.
Okay, one more hurdle.
One more hurdle. Sometimes we believe it's just plain selfish to practice self-compassion. And again, if we're able to hit pause for a second and really sit with this in a calm, non-anxious way instead of a reactive way, logic tells us it can't be selfish, because the more self-compassion we show to ourselves, the more I'm going to have available to give to others.
Right.
All right, how am I doing? Everybody listening, are you convinced yet? Are you feeling more connected to your fellow human yet? Still skeptical? Still, I don't know, Emily.
I think it's just, like you said, it's not even counterintuitive. It's just counter to years of programming. To get over it, move on, quit, like you said, quit wallowing, quit playing the victim. And to have to sort of override that, like you said about the funeral, like I had to override that initial reaction to be ashamed that I was vulnerable.
Yes.
That's just a lot.
It's hard.
It's hard. It's not the default.
No.
And we have to constantly override the default that we've been programmed. So what would that even look like if we were trying to live it out in real time, in real life? you shared a little bit about what it looked like for you just briefly with this funeral. But what does that look like for us?
For us. Okay. So our default, anytime we're moving into growth or changing something new, is going to be the try harder approach.
Mm-hmm.
We've broached that a little bit in some previous episodes.
Right.
When it comes to trying out self-compassion, I like the phrase try softer.
Oh.
Instead of try harder, I like
that.
try softer.
Yeah.
I did not coin that phrase. I'm borrowing from another fellow clinician, a writer named Aundi Kolber. Also, I've linked her book in the show notes because I just think that phrase is so good. I really like try softer because it still has the word try in it. It's not passive. It's not saying I'm just throwing in the towel and forget it. It's acknowledging I'm still exercising the will. It's still effort. It's just a different type of effort.
Yeah.
A try softer approach won't take away the pain. It will not eradicate the pain of loss or the pain of, oh my goodness, I just messed up and I can't believe that I made that mistake. It won't take away the pain. It just changes how we go through the pain. And I have struggled so much with this. By God's grace, I'm light years from where I used to be, but it's still a challenge. I remember my first therapist that I worked with individually for myself. She was the first person to react a different way to my lack of self-compassion. I remember I was sitting in a session, telling a story, and I just threw in an offhanded remark, and she had this look of shock on her face, and it totally took me aback to see her face and her body language because I thought, oh my goodness, what did I just say? And she said, are you hearing how harsh you're being with yourself right now? And
you're like, obviously not, because this is just my native language.
That's just my native. It was completely run of the mill for me. It did not even register. So she had me do an exercise where I practiced placing my hand on my heart and I would just say the word beloved out loud. And do you remember I told you about that exercise that she was having me practice? And I can't remember if it had already come up in some reading that you were doing, or I told you about it and then the next day it came up. But you said, oh my goodness, look at this verse from the Bible that I just found. And it was from Deuteronomy. And I can still recite it from memory because when you told me about it, it was so perfect with that exercise that I was practicing. It says, let the beloved of the Lord rest secure in him, for he shields him all day long, and the one the Lord loves rests between his shoulders. And I just swapped out, him for her.
Yeah.
And that physical act of kind of placing my hand on my heart and then reciting that verse to myself over and over again, let the beloved of the Lord rest secure in him. Let the beloved of the resting between his shoulders. That was so beneficial for me. And, even as you're listening to me talking about this right now, try it out. Just wherever you are on a walk or in your car, just take your hand and place it on your heart and even just say that word out loud, beloved. Because that type of combination, that sort of touch and hearing yourself say it with your own voice, it activates the brain in a different way. It gives us a very experiential way of offering self-kindness or self-compassion towards my grief, or offering self-compassion towards my anger, or towards my shame, or towards my suffering, or towards my broken dreams, or my losses. It's saying, all of it is beloved. And that is a way to sort of move into the try softer approach with our emotions, with even our bodies, with our beliefs. And so I really like that type of experiential practice. You can also practice self-compassion by getting yourself to other humanity. Connect with others in your pain, whether that's a friend, a support group, or a community. Practicing self-compassion might look like using some phrases to help stay mindful or stay in that place of mindfulness. It might sound like, I'm not meant to be perfect. I'm allowed to make mistakes because I'm human. Or it might sound like, I forgive myself for what I did while I was still learning. And even just having a couple of phrases in your back pocket to access can sometimes be a way to exercise that try softer approach. Maybe even a question. If you find yourself just defaulting to whatever, I'll be fine, hitting pause and asking, okay, what do I need right now? That would be an act of self-compassion. So any of those would be a way to try out the try softer approach in real life. And then, like much of what we say, this is like building a muscle. It just takes repetition and practice.
This is the second time in 2 days where you've told me a story about myself that I have no memory of. I'm so glad I was such a good friend to you.
You have, yes.
To share that wisdom.
Yeah.
Great job.
Well done.
Not even an inkling of recognition washed over me as you were sharing that, but I love it. And I know that was a long time ago also, too.
And what a beautifully self-compassionate approach that you just took with yourself.
Well, what was it that you said? Just get over it or no?
I'll be fine.
I'll be fine. I'll be fine.
Yeah.
That's one that's baked in. So I have to, I'll be fine. It's fine. It's fine. I'll be fine. I hear this. I hear myself saying it a lot. I hear my friends saying it a lot, actually.
Yeah, I have heard you say that.
Okay, there you go. When you start to kind of go down that road and you go, whatever, I'll be fine. It'll be fine. Mm-hmm. It'll work itself out. It'll be fine. And like so many things I have learned in terms of mental and emotional health, but also just living life, the answer is almost always just pause for a second. Mm-hmm. Just pause. Mm. Pause for a second. And if we could pause for a second and then maybe swap that with some of the things you mentioned, a phrase, a different phrase. When you hear yourself saying that, you could swap that out for a different phrase. I loved the one that you said of, I might not have it exactly right, but I forgive myself for when I didn't know as much.
Yes, what I did while I was still learning.
I was still learning. I really like that one. So maybe there's just a phrase you swap that out when you hear. Just pause. When you want to just jump in and react to yourself, just pause. Mm. And there's so much goodness on the other side of self-compassion. And so to the person asking our question, when you are in the middle of these seasons and you don't know what to do with it, maybe you just pause. Mm. Maybe that's the try softer approach.
That's good.
Instead of just move on and get through it and keep your head down and keep pushing through, that it's actually not selfish or victimizing to just give yourself that self-compassion.
Yeah, that's good.
We are so glad. We are so thankful again for the people who have submitted questions and for this listener who shared this vulnerability with us. And we just encourage you to keep reaching out, and we're going to keep going through this together. And as Emily said, this is an episode where we're both like, oh, could work on that. This is not something we've solved.
No.
And you've done a lot more work than I, and you still have not fully solved this, right?
Right.
So to constantly overriding the default of what we want to say to ourselves, and then just in self-compassion, we'll all say together, I didn't know everything. I didn't, I'm not perfect. I'm still learning.
Yeah, and that's okay.
And that's okay.
And that's part of being a human.
And that's part of being a human. So we're so glad you're here. Keep sticking with us, and we will see you next time on Say More.